Hi, it's Julala here from Jinx. It's been over a year now since I released the first Jinx Bento Centaur, and with the recent release of the Cen-Lightaur, I thought it was probably a good idea to do an updated video. So this is the Cen-Lightaur Fantasy Fair Special Edition. We'll have a look at what's in the box to start with. So obviously there's the centaur body. There are two different styles of belt, one that might be more suited to female form and one that might be more suited to a male type form around the waist. There's the animation override, which I've put on here. There's a tail. It's separate tail because you can buy other tails from third-party creators. There is a HUD where you can change the colour, and there's some lovely skins in here by Cinnamon. 8 skins in there to choose from. And there is actually a special Fantasy Fair skin in the Fantasy Fair Special Edition, which is the purple one that I was wearing. That won't be available in the package after Fantasy Fair, but it might be made available to buy at a later stage. So on the HUD, you can also change the texture and tint of the belt. A few different ones there. I'll take that off now. There is in the box a something called Centaur Invisible Hooves. You don't need to worry about that for the moment. As I start to make accessories for the Cen-Lightaur, we'll have things like cloven hooves where you'll want to make these hooves invisible. If you're using the standard Centaur, you can do that already because there are already accessories available for the standard. The Cen-Lightaur is designed to be used with normal sized avatars, and it's been tested with most bodies and fits most mesh bodies. There is an issue with standard, the old system avatar. Technically you can use it, but because this is a bento centaur and the animations are bento, when they're uploaded as the format .anim, they actually put the standard old non-bento avatar into the splayed hand position, and there's not really anything I can do about that at the moment. So I suggest if you're using a system Avi, you either get used to jazz hands or get yourself some mesh hands, so that they can respond to the bento animations, or even static mesh ones, so that they're not splayed. You will need to make the lower part, the legs and feet, and maybe part of the pelvis of your human body invisible. If you're wearing a mesh body, you can do that with your alpha HUD. There is also a alpha layer included in the box for system bodies, or if you're using BOM. There is an issue that we found with the Beliza Freya and Isis bodies, not the Venus, that one's fine, it's just the Freya and Isis, where it deforms the front legs quite badly. So if you are using Beliza Freya or Isis, you'll find inside those folders of your bodies, there are 2 models. There's one that says bento after it and one that doesn't. If you wear the one that doesn't, the issue goes away. If you want to continue wearing the bento Freya or Isis bodies, there is a stand fix HUD in here, which you can put on and keep on right next to your AO, and just click it if your legs balk. Okay, so they'll be sticking out front horribly. Just click it, and you might need to do that each time you put something on or take something off. So that's why I suggest you just leave it there next to your AO if you're wearing those bodies. If you're not wearing those bodies, there shouldn't be any issue, and you won't need to use that. Another issue that comes up sometimes for people is that their legs are very straight and not bending properly. If you're wearing Maitreya, in the HUD, there's an ankle lock in there. You might be wearing a separate ankle lock or a different body with an ankle lock, and you can see what happens to the leg here. It remains straight. So if you don't want to look like a communist military centaur, I suggest you take your ankle lock off, and then your legs will bend again. So when you unpack your centaur, you want to be wearing the centaur. You might want to wear a belt. You don't have to wear a belt, by the way. You can go without a belt. And you will want to wear your centaur AO. That's this one here. You will also need to continue to wear your human AO. Okay, so the centaur AO only controls mostly the bones in the horse part. It does occasionally take control of some of the upper body areas as well. We'll talk about that in a bit. And the upper body, so your human part, is still controlled by your human AO. Now, that's designed intentionally. I don't make mocap animations. So if I was to put the human part into the centaur animation overrider, you'd all have the same animations up here, and B, they wouldn't be as nice as some of these lovely mocap ones that you can get. So by intention, I have kept the upper body being controlled by the human AO, and you can use any human AO as long as it doesn't go above priority 4. Most human AOs are at priority 3 or 4, and those will be fine because the centaur AO animations are priority 5, which is why they override the lower part of your human AO. So have a quick look at what's on the AO here. Speed enabled, we'll look at speed in a minute and how we increase and decrease speed and change pace. Sit disabled, well, if you sit on something and you want to go into your centaur sit, which you will want to, because otherwise you're just going to look a bit weird, then you would make sure you've got sit enabled. You can have your stands going sequentially or randomly, whichever you prefer. You can push through to the next stand. You can select how you want your horse to be walking, but I don't use that very much because we're going to be using the speed, and I'll show you that in a second. You can load the note cards. There are 2 note cards in here. We'll talk about the differences of those in a moment. And you can reset your AO. The Fantasy Fair Special Edition has more gestures or animations in it than what would normally be there. So this dance. Now again, when you're dancing, I've left the upper body for the human AO. So you can again have some variety and have different dances. The dances on the Centaur HUD, you click to start them and then click to stop. This is the standard dance that will be in the non-special edition. And this is the 3rd extra dance. So again, just click them on and off. When you finish dancing, you'll also want to turn off your human dance. Now, when you do that, it actually turns off all your animations. So you'll need to just either wait for the stand to kick back in or just toggle your Centaur AO on, off and on again. You can sit, well, it's more of a lay down, but there we go. You can also do that in Firestorm. There's a ground sit button down here, or if it's not on your toolbar, you can add it by right clicking, going to toolbar buttons, and then choosing, just dragging it down there. And if you click on there, it does exactly the same. There's a rear, and this is in the non-special edition one as well. And there's a special one in the Fantasy Fair edition called Whistle Jacket. Whistle Jacket is called that because there was a famous painting by George Stubbs called Whistle Jacket, and if you have a look, he's rearing in this kind of shape. Okay, so let's get moving. So as we walk along, now I'm in trot here straight away because that's where I left off. Let's just say start in walk. Now you can see that the arms are now being controlled by the Centaur AO. The reason for that is because quite often the arms flap around a little bit if you use your human AO, because the rest of the body, the lower part of the body, isn't running in a human way. The arms start sort of flapping around and look a bit odd. So I've taken control of the arms into the Centaur part of the AO once we start moving. In the previous Centaur, walk was left with the arms free, and some of you have said you'd quite like that to be the case for this one. There will be a separate video that I'm going to do to show you how to edit your AO and make your own note cards and choose which animations you want in each note card. So for now, I'm just going to show you through the paces. So we're walking, and I'm going to, as I'm moving, I'm just going to tap the up arrow once, and it goes into trot. And again, the arms are taken control by the Centaur AO. As I'm moving again, I tap up my up arrow once more, and it goes into canter. And again, the arms are taken control of by the Centaur AO. Tap once more, and we go into gallop. Oops, into the trees. If I want to slow down again as I'm moving, I can just tap the down arrow once, goes into canter. Tap it again, down arrow goes into trot. Down arrow, tap it again, and we're back into walk. So I mentioned that there were 2 note cards in the animation override. We're using normal at the moment. There's also one that says Alt-1 Joust. Okay, that one, if you load it, let's just load that one up. Now normally there would be some text down here, but I've got do not disturb on, so it's not coming up, so we'll guess when it's loaded. What this is for, this actually does release the upper body completely in terms of the arms. So if you remember when I showed you the walk, trot, canter, the arms were taken control by the Centaur AO. In this one, they will now not. So you can see, so this is the normal human walk AO. It actually looks okay on this, don't mind it, but some of them get very flappy. Yeah, like that. Looks fine when the lower part is doing human things, but not so much when it's not. And again, when we go into canter. The reason we use this is because sometimes we want to use the arms for something else. And the reason it's called joust is because Warwick over at Unity Maxim has made a nice special jousting lance for the Centaur. And that's one example of when you would want your upper body to be controlled by something other than this AO. So if you're jousting or perhaps using weapons, then you might want to use that note card. Otherwise, you can just press the normal one and have your upper body taken control of during walk, trot and canter. Let's have a quick look at shape. Some of the shape sliders will affect the centaur part of the body, and some of them won't. Some of them will still affect your upper human body. I haven't included a shape in the folder because your shape, really, you don't want your face and upper body to change probably from what it is. Okay, so what's best is I've put some suggested shape settings in here because there's only certain sliders that will affect the shape of the centaur body. Let's have a look at some of those. So if I right click and go into appearance and edit shape, we can see that the height will be affected. Okay, stretches the legs there. The body thickness will also affect the shape of the centaur. It makes it longer and a bit fatter. And obviously the hover height, which you might want to adjust accordingly, or if you're using Firestorm, of course, you can use the hover height slider here. The other sliders that have an impact are in the torso section. That will be the torso length. You can see here. The love handles actually are quite useful for making sure that your waist fits nicely to the centaur. If you're not using the belt particularly, you might want to have a look at what kind of difference the love handles make, and the belly size actually. And then in the legs section, again, the leg length will make an impact. The hip width will actually change the entire width of your centaur body. Oops, and hip length will have an impact there. You can see the hip width there. Again, the butt size can change how the body joins, and so sometimes it pokes out. We don't want that necessarily, but actually with this particular corset, it looks quite nice like that. So maybe I quite like it like that. So those are the ones that really only have an impact. I've put some suggested ones in there for a little female, which I've used here, or perhaps a taller male, and then you'll need to adjust your hover height accordingly, and then just save it as a new shape, okay, for your particular look. Okay, so that's the basics. I hope you do enjoy your Cen-Lightaur or your centaur. You can also get the Cen-Lightaur, which is designed for dinkies and kids, and the Cen-Lightaur, which is designed for petites. You can see the full range here, starting with the standard centaur on the right, then the Cen-Lightaur, then the Cen-Lightaur, and on the far left, that's the Cen-Lightaur. I might also mention the Ancient Order of Centaurs, which is essentially a community engagement group for centaurs in Second Life. We party quite a lot, and we perhaps do some jousting here and there, some photo contests. If you'd like to find out more, you can find out more on the Jinx website, which is jinxsl.co.uk, or pop along to the Jinx store and you'll find some information there about the Ancient Order of Centaurs.